We've all been there, right? You encounter someone and their behavior completely baffles or maybe just frustrates you. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a highly structured, deeply compassionate framework for navigating human struggle. We're going to look at the ways people hurt and the ways people hide through a lens that actually honors their complexity. So instead of jumping straight to quick fixes, we are diving into a holistic model of care that moves beautifully from the visible surface right down into the hidden spaces of the heart. We've got a clear roadmap for this today. We'll go from seeing past the surface to the core teaching movements, spend some really good time in moving beneath without suspicion, look at the log in our eye, and finally, naming modest practices.
Okay, part one, seeing past the surface. So think about the last time you encountered someone in pain, or maybe in the middle of a conflict. What's our first reflex? Usually, we rush to fix the visible issue, or we quickly judge the outward behavior. The source material actually calls this the presenting surface. It's what we notice first. But, and here's the real challenge, if we just stop at that presenting surface, we reduce the person way too quickly. We have to learn to name the presenting struggle without letting it completely define who they are. Because, if we only treat the symptom, the root just keeps growing.
Let's imagine a scenario. We'll call this person the defensive helper. Picture a volunteer you work with, super warm, incredibly generous. But the exact moment someone questions the decision they've made, their whole demeanor shifts. They explain themselves for what feels like hours. They shift the blame onto other people or the circumstances. And then later on, they feel deeply ashamed that they couldn't just take the feedback gracefully. Now, if we only look at those long explanations and the blame shifting, we'd probably just assume they're stubborn or unteachable or just a really difficult person to work with. But here's the crucial point. If we only look at that armor of defensiveness, we completely miss the vulnerable shame hiding underneath it all. The source material points out that defensiveness is often exactly that, shame wearing armor and calling itself wisdom. Ever since sin entered the picture, hiding has literally been one of our oldest human arts. We hide behind explanations, accusations, competence, humor, even theology. Think about it. How often do we hide behind a joke? Shame whispers, hey, I am the wrong kind of person to be known. And defensiveness steps right up as the bodyguard for that hidden self.
Which brings us to part two, the core teaching movements. To actually help someone like our defensive helper, we need a map. This 5-step movement isn't some rigid formula, okay? It's a holistic, reliable path for offering wise, scripture-shaped care. It's how we interpret human struggle instead of just reacting to it. First, we name that presenting surface. Second, and this is huge, we move beneath the surface without suspicion. Third, we bring scripture as a light. Fourth, we return the question to the counselor to check our own hearts. And fifth, we name a modest practice. This framework makes absolutely sure that we honor human complexity before we speak a single word of correction.
All right, part three, beneath without suspicion. This is really the core focus of our explainer today. How do we explore the depths of a person's heart without acting like a suspicious interrogator? We look for the river beneath the river. We're paying close attention to the loves, the fears, even the bodily limits driving those surface actions. The text has this beautiful description. It calls desire an underground river moving the soil above it. So what looks like anger or avoidance or control on the surface, that might actually be driven by a much deeper current, like the fear of being abandoned or a demand to be safe. And we can't forget their stories, their habits, or their embodied realities. People aren't just floating brains. We are embodied souls who get tired. Sometimes a spiritual struggle is 10 times worse simply because the person is literally just exhausted. Look at the profound difference here. It's the difference between treating someone's heart as a crime scene to be solved versus treating it as a place needing refuge and understanding. I mean, it is so easy to slip into spiritual surveillance mode, isn't it? Just looking for exactly where they messed up. But investigating with compassion treats the heart as a refuge. Curiosity has to stay under the umbrella of love. We aren't trying to flatten their desire into a harsh accusation. Instead, we're asking compassionate questions, like what good desire in this person has become dangerous because it became absolutely necessary? Or what shield are they lifting right now because they're terrified exposure will destroy them? And that leads perfectly into the third movement, ensuring we use scripture as a light, not a club. We want to reveal and comfort our defensive helper, not batter them down. We have to ask, what does God reveal, promise, command, expose, or comfort here? The text really cautions us against using scripture as a decorative proof text or a weapon. We shouldn't answer deep anxiety with impatience because, well, Jesus reasons tenderly with anxious people. A club beats someone down with a rule, but a light illuminates the whole room so they can safely see exactly where they're walking. Okay, part 4, the log in our eye. Before we rush in to fix anything, we've got to pivot inward and examine our own hearts. True discernment has to first be humbled by God's mercy before we can clearly see anybody else. The first gaze isn't ours. Before the counselor looks, the counselor is looked upon. God sees our divided motives, the weary places where our zeal has basically become a performance, and our old fears dressed up in ministry clothing. A counselor who hasn't been seen by mercy is going to see others way too sharply and love them way too thinly. We just can't offer the deep compassion that we haven't first received ourselves. The source material makes this fascinating point. The log in our eye isn't always gross, obvious hypocrisy. Sometimes it's just the subtle desire to be the one who understands. It's the need to be trusted or admired for our incredible insight, or to experience someone else depending on us as evidence that we actually matter. Those might seem like quiet little things, but a hairline fracture in the lens still bends the light. It distorts how we view the people we're trying to help. We have to know where our own functional refuge is before we dare critique someone else's. And finally, part 5, naming modest practices. This is the resolution stage, where we acknowledge that, hey, we don't have to fix the whole universe in a single conversation. The Wise Care movement is about listening, clarifying, interpreting, speaking, and practicing. We're asking ourselves, what might wise love do next, without pretending to solve everything all at once? By naming a modest practice, we honor the complexity of the struggle without rushing the person's growth. For our defensive helper, a modest practice might just be agreeing to pause and take one deep breath the next time they feel defensive, rather than trying to rewire their entire communication style overnight. It's an invitation to open a door instead of raising a shield. It's about finding one ordinary, grounded moment where truth can become concrete in prayer, conversation, or just patience. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought as you step back into your own relationships and spaces of care. Are you more tempted to reduce people merely to their chemistry and circumstances, or do you swing the other way, ignoring the body entirely and treating every single struggle as just a matter of willful disobedience? Finding that balance, not over-spiritualizing and not under-spiritualizing, is the absolute essence of wise, compassionate care. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep looking beneath the surface.